Hello and good morning. It's Tuesday, the 8th of August 2023. This is the Breville Barista Express, BES870 in the brushed stainless steel. Just finished doing the service on it last night. This is a used machine, of course, so it does have scratches. A lot of them are in the front, small dent here, maybe a few small scratches on the left-hand side. But for its age, it's honestly pretty good. And last night I've just finished doing a full refurbishing and service on the machine. So seals, new seals all around. So about 7 or 8 silicone seals with silicone grease. Recalibrated the grinder. Recalibrated the grinder. Did the cleaning cycles. Given the machine a full wipe down and sanitizing on the outside. And given it a new steam connector and elbow joint on the solenoid. So it's going to have a long life to live after this refurbishing. I've obviously done a full pressure test, steam test, 0 leaks from either of them. And in this video, I'll be doing the final test, which is making a coffee. So I like to firstly warm up my machine. You can do the warm up by letting the machine stay on. I've let it on for about 10 or 20 minutes now. It's nice and warm. But if you want to warm it up some more, you can do that. It's quite easy. You just get your cup, put it underneath and press the double button. That's going to give you a double quantity of water. It's going to warm up the handle pretty quickly. That's going to warm up your cup pretty quickly. Just quickly for your reference, I like to test the health of the pump and the internals by running a shot with the cleaning disc. So that's going to block all the water. It's going to take the pressure all the way to the top. And it's going to test the grip head seal. It's also going to test the internal seals. If there's any leaks, it won't reach this level. And I've done this test with the lid off, obviously to ensure there's no leaks. And there were none. This machine was actually a trade-in by a previous customer, really well taken care of, and that customer is now using the next machine in line, the Barista Pro. But this machine is ticking like new now. So now the cup is nice and warm. I don't know if I tested the double button, but you can also test the single button. That works fine as well. I think I've already done it, I'm not sure, but I'll let it go. Next, I'll be filling my milk jug with about halfway with cold milk. I'm trying out oat milk. It's like the Barista variety. I'm going to use a smaller milk jug actually. So it works fine there. Next would be the grinding, but I'm just going to pour out the milk in the meantime. It's about halfway. Supposed to shake it. Once that's done, grab your portafilter, take it out, dry it thoroughly. I like to dry it because when you have water in the basket, you grind coffee and some of those coffee grounds get wet, and that may mess up your distribution and extraction. So just make sure it's wet. I am using the double basket. This takes 18 grams of ground coffee. I'm using a scale here to demonstrate that I have the correct amount of coffee. So I'm using the scale to measure the input and the output. The input 18 grams, the output 35 to 40 grams. And the time for that should be about 20 to 30 seconds. So if I have the correct grind size is on the left here, it will control the coarseness of the coffee, so how large the particles or how small. If it's a very large grind size on the extreme end, the coffee will flow too quickly. We will notice very low pressure. We will notice the coffee coming out very quickly in maybe 5, 10, 15, not 5 seconds, but probably 10 or 15 seconds. That's a bit too quick for me. When I say shot, I mean that 30, let's say 40 grams of coffee is the destination. If it's very, very fine, what I might notice is the grind size the pressure going all the way to 1 o'clock and the output coming very slowly. So if I have very fine grind size, it'll choke the machine and it'll give you a very slow shot. So you may get the 40 gram shot in maybe a minute, which is obviously way too long. Much longer than the 25 seconds that we're aiming for. So just to simplify it, 25 seconds, 40 grams output. That is the aim. And we control that speed, the length, with the grind size. Now, I've recalibrated the grinder. So it used to grind a bit coarsely. Now I've recalibrated it, so now it grinds much finer than before. You just have to be careful not to go all the way to grind size number 1. Because if you go all the way to grind size number 1, the blades start touching. We don't want that to happen. So I'm going to use grind size number 3. Maybe number 4, maybe number 2, number 3, number 4, we never know. The only way to know if you have the correct grind size is to make coffee. So that's what we're going to do after a lot of talking. I'm also going to put the amount at the 12 o'clock position. You can put that on single or double. Double obviously will give you the double quantity right away. I personally like to keep it on single and do it twice, just so we can control and see how much we're getting. Plus it reduces the mess. Otherwise, if you grind the entire output, you may get like a mountain of coffee, and then when you take it out of the cradle here, it might fall onto your counter space. That's the first dose. Looks good. Maybe too fine, but we'll never know. We never know unless we make coffee. That's 8.1 grams. So it's it's fine, but we'll see if it's too fine when we make the coffee. So 8.1, I'll increase it to maybe the 2 o'clock position, so we get 9 grams, because 9 times 2 is 18. Great, so that's 9 grams. I'm going to press it with the tamper. Very important to press. That's going to make way for the next batch. Or the next dose. Nine grams, perfect. This is very, very good. So 2 o'clock position, grind size 3 will give you 9 grams per single dose. So before I press with the tamper the second time, I want to make sure it's flat before I press, so that the pressure is flat, is even across, and not concentrated just in the middle. So just grab the tamper and press it nice and firm. Very good. So you notice something. Before I pressed it, it was level with the rim, or level with the edge of the basket here, like flush. And after I've pressed it, you notice that the silver part on the tamper disappears. So that's a nice rule of thumb, or a nice guide for you. If you don't have a scale, or if you're in a hurry, you can just look at the depth of the tamper. And if you can't see it, then it's the right depth. That's what it looks like with 18 grams, which is the correct amount of coffee. Make sure you also clean the edges from any ground coffee. Lock it in the middle. If it's very loose, you may have to go all the way to the right. It just depends on how old the machine is, or how old the rubber seal is. So you don't have to go all the way to the right at this moment. But maybe in a year or two, you may have to go all the way to the right to keep that seal and prevent leak. Cool. Get rid of the hot water. reset my scale, and we're ready to brew. So, I'm gonna time the shot. Like I said, we're aiming for about 40 grams in about 25 seconds. If it's quicker or much slower than that, I'll let you know. And we may do it again if it's really bad. Just because I want the machine to be ready for you. I want it to be plug and play. You don't have to mess too much with the settings. Of course, in the end, you will have to change the settings a little bit because each machine is different. Each machine will give you different results with different beans. So if you're not using the exact same beans that I'm using the Aldi dark beans, or even if you use the same brand and you buy a fresh bag, you may have to tweak the settings a little bit. So I'm gonna put it in the right sort of ballpark for you and you can adjust it. The last thing, to hopefully not confuse you, the last thing is to change the settings on the buttons. So the buttons are from factory programmed to give you set amount of water. In my opinion, that set amount is a bit too long, so I'm going to change it. So I'm going to change the double button only for now to give me about 40 grams of coffee with this grind settings and this coffee. To do that, you press program, you press the button, then you stop it once you're happy with that amount. I know from experience what 40 grams looks like, and it's usually about here, 3/4 all the way to the black ring. So that's what I'm going to aim for. You can also keep an eye on the gauge. Ideally, it should be around the gray zone, like 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock, or 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock. That's typical what 9 bars to 10 bars is like. But I'm expecting it to go a bit too high, just because we may have ground too fine. Yep, I expected as much. We'll let it run and see what happens. We're at 15 seconds now, and the pour is quite slow. I may let it run actually. I'm not gonna stop it. We're at 27, 28, 29, 30, 12 o'clock position. It may not be too bad actually. So I'll stop it right there. 35 seconds. Oh my god, I'm not lying to you. That's exactly 40 grams. That's 40 grams in 35 seconds. So actually pretty good result. If I stopped it at 30, it may have been 35 grams. So with these beans, with this setting, with everything I've done, that's what I'm getting, 40 grams in 35 seconds. Or if you wanted to stop it at 30 seconds, it would have given you maybe 35, 38, you never know. So that's a pretty good result in my opinion. It's going to be nice strong taste if it's a bit slower than 30. If it's flowing quicker than 30 seconds, like 20 seconds or 15 seconds for your shot to come out, that will probably give you an acidic taste rather than a strong bitter taste, which I'm probably going to get now in the slower shot. But that's alright, that's a good shot, we can still use that. So I'm going to leave the settings as is. Just reminding you that please don't go all the way to grind size number 1, otherwise your blades might touch each other. So grind size 2, 3, 4, even 3 is probably fine enough. 2, 3, 4 and above. The smaller the finer, of course. Using 2 o'clock position on the single, doing it twice. And using the double basket. With the single basket, you probably have to only do it once because it's single. So you divide that by, like the 18 gram basket, the single is actually 9 grams or 10 grams. So you can use 9 grams. Ooh, that's a strong taste. You can also add, obviously, I recommend adding sugar and syrups before the espresso. I haven't done that just because I anticipated we may have to do this shot twice because of the grind size being quite fine, but that's alright. We can add the sugar after the shot, that's fine. I'm just going to do a quick wipe. Make sure the machine is nice and dry at all times. You don't want it to stain. coffee done. Next is milk. Yeah, always flush like I did before. And if you want, you can also dry it. So flushing will clean the shower screen, it'll clean the grip head, seal if you have a bit of coffee, and the basket as well. It's also good to grab a tissue and wipe it. If you keep your machine happy, it'll keep you happy. Next, yeah, steaming. So just turn on the steamer. It takes about 15 seconds to start giving you that steam output. In the meantime, you can go and grab your milk jug or whatever. I've already got it here. Once it starts pulsating, that's usually about full pressure. You just want to position there you go. It'll get a little bit stronger over time. It's getting stronger and stronger. So I'm going to turn it off, position my jug, then turn it back on. Turn it off, position, turn it back on. Keep the wand at an angle, close to the edge of the jug, and keep the milk spinning in a vortex. And the level of froth is controlled by how deep you insert the wand. So if you keep the wand close to the surface, it'll give you a lot of foam, a lot of bubbles. If you keep it deep inside the milk, it'll actually give you less bubbles. It sounds a little bit counterintuitive, but basically when you keep it close to the surface, it brings in air as it steams. So it brings in air from the surface of the milk to inside the milk. That's how you can get the small bubbles. And now it's too hot to the touch. When it's too hot to the touch, you just turn it off. It's gonna cool down. So the machine automatically cools down so you can make another coffee. From steam mode, it will cool down to espresso mode. Very important, give it a good wipe. Give it a good wipe so to avoid any blockages. You don't want to block the wand with milk and then come on the next morning, turn on the steam, and then you're not getting any milk output because you forgot to wipe it or you forgot to clean, like you forgot to purge it like that. What might happen is over time, stress, if you build up stress in the steam line, you may cause another leak in a few years' time if you do this consistently. So try to avoid pressures, try to avoid blockages, and just give it a purge after you use it. That's what I do with every machine. Prevention is better than cure. Yeah, that's done. That's good consistency. I'm not very experienced with oat milk, so it's probably not going to be great frothing quality because, again, I'm still learning. I usually use cow's milk, but this actually looks pretty good. I've got the Barista variety oat milk, which I think they add chemicals to it to make it froth a little bit better than the normal oat milk. Something like that. So once you're done steaming, give the jug a few taps to break any big air bubbles and swirl it around to mix it up. Yeah, I don't know what I drew there. It was alright actually, it looks alright. At least it probably tastes good, that's what matters, isn't it? Here is the final result. I tried to draw a heart, but I think I ran out of foam. Usually it's easier with cow's milk. But yeah, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate in messaging me or asking me any issues or concerns. And yeah, I hope to see you soon. Thanks for watching.